God'll get you for that one.
Maude is owned by Shout Factory.
God'll Get You for That, Walter is produced for entertainment purposes only.
Sponsored in part by Findley's Friendly Appliances. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of God'll Get You for That, Walter.
And he sort of does.
Sort of does.
Slightly.
Gods of Cambridge.
Gods of Cambridge.
Gods of Cambridge.
Gods of Cambridge.
You know, Columbia. Mm-hmm. Welcome to God'll Get You for That, Walter, a podcast where we discuss the 1970s hit sitcom, Maude. I am your host, Tom Catt, and I am joined by my ever-lovely co-host, the lovely, the talented, the divine Toni Homeperm.
You forgot delicious.
We're not going to discuss that.
Okay.
You're slowly souring in my mouth the more I introduce you.
Do I leave a bitter aftertaste?
Yes, you are the Sour Patch Kid in my life. And today is episode 44. Mm-hmm. We will be discussing Florida's Goodbye.
Yes.
Which originally aired February 5th, 1974. With guest stars John Amos reprising his role as Henry Evans, Conchata Ferrell as Rita Valdez, and Gene Byron as an unnamed applicant.
Yes. And this is the season 2, episode 20 episode.
Yep, season 2, episode 20. We're nearing the end of season 2. Isn't it amazing?
I know. Who would have guessed?
Time flies when you're on Prozac.
It does.
It was directed by Hal Cooper, naturally, and written by Norman Lear, John Rappaport, and Bob Weisskopf. Mm-hmm. So this was the last episode that Florida and Henry, were around.
Yes.
And then we actually found out that Good Times premiered the following day. It premiered February 8th, 1974.
Oh, okay.
So they
three nights later.
3 nights later. Mm-hmm. Which, seems standard. Like, it would just be that it would follow the fold like that.
Yes.
And we found out that it actually had been in development for a while.
Yes.
Good Times was in development for a while with Norman Lear and Mike Evans.
Here's the thing, though.
Okay.
The Florida and her husband in Good Times are not the Florida and the husband in Maude.
Nope.
The
Florida and Henry Evans were a black couple from New York, from Harlem. She still had 3 beautiful kids. I remember that specifically. I remember Florida.
Did they say they lived in Harlem?
Yes,
they did.
Yes, Florida's actually stated that she lived in Harlem.
But she actually mentions having a house.
Yeah, and in Good Times, she lives in a co-op or a project.
Right, they lived in a little apartment. Mm-hmm. So,
but they also didn't live in New York. They lived in Chicago.
Yeah. So yeah.
And Henry became James.
So this is my theory.
Okay. Oh, a theory.
This is my theory.
Oh God, theory.
The Florida and James in Good Times, they are from an alternate universe. They are not it's not the same Florida as in the Maude universe.
Of course not.
This is in Good Times. It is a completely different universe. Like in Star Trek, they had the mirror universe, and in like the Marvel Comics movies, they have now. There's all these like different variants of characters from all these other different universes.
I am smiling and nodding as I slowly think to
Am
myself.
Am I wrong?
It's time to straitjacket you. Well, it's time to institutionalize you.
We've been down that rabbit hole many times. But tell me I'm wrong.
No, it does stand to reason that they would do that, but also. The magic of television.
Yes.
We obviously know that Good Times had been in development for a while. Obviously, we're going to assume that the network execs saw saw star quality in Estorola's Florida. So they were like, let's give her her own show, similar to how Norman Lear did it with Maude.
Right. So I'm wondering, since the idea for Good Times was already in production. They had like a set idea of what that show was going to be.
Yes.
They also had, Esterola, as Florida in Maude.
Yes.
And I guess what happened was they just loved Esterola's Florida so much, they just wanted to
give her her own vehicle.
They just wanted to put her into Good Times, and it just didn't matter to them that it was really
it was funny
different.
that the name of the show was called Good Times and not Florida.
Right.
Because obviously that would be too close to Maude.
True.
So I guess that they couldn't do that. But I mean, you look at the character of Florida Evans, and just the way that Esther played the character was just so brilliant.
Oh yes.
It's just it really is just such a shame what they did to they did to her in the show.
Yes, because as we all know,
As we've addressed in previous episodes,
in good times, the show was basically she was really supposed to be the lead. And
it was her and James.
And
they were supposed to be the two figureheads. They were the leads in the show.
Esther Roll and John Amos. And really, what happened was that Jimmy Walker, who played their oldest son JJ, he became the breakout star on that show, as what's happened a few times, like with Jaleel White.
With Jaleel White as Urkel
on Family Matters.
Yeah.
He wasn't even part of the family.
It didn't pertain to family anymore. It was the Steve Urkel show.
Yes.
And to his credit, he has taken that character so far the same way JJ took it in the 70s.
Yeah. I mean, it was like, what were the producers going to do? I mean, everybody loved the character so much, and they were like, well, this is what is giving us our huge ratings. So, and of course,
was by the 4th season. That was what I remember reading. It was by the 4th season when Florida said, like,
Esther Roll left. She left. But she did come back again later on, right?
Yes, I think she came back for one season.
Yeah, but then left again.
Yep.
So
just because it wasn't.
Yes.
I mean, it was the same thing. Esther and John both felt that the focus wasn't on
them,
and it wasn't on issues of the time. It became squarely focused on JJ, and then Janet Jackson got involved. So
right.
I forget when she was introduced, but it became
later on.
It became more
Penny.
focused. It became more focused on the kids than it did anything else.
Yes. Yeah.
So
that's what really ended up
what
happening.
Happened.
But now we open, of course, this episode where Walter and Maude, they're coming into the living room
from the cold. It's cold and it's frosty.
Cold.
It's a frosty morning.
And Walter's yelling at Maude because she let her battery die.
Yep.
And he can't believe that she did that.
Yep. And Maude shoots back. And if I've told you once, I've told you 1,000 times. You should have married Andy Granatelli.
Who is Andy Granatelli?
I wish I could tell. Hold on. Hey Siri.
Okay.
Who is Andy Granatelli?
Who is Andy Granatelli? Somebody from the 1970s.
Please hold for the next available representative.
Hold.
Vamp.
Da 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 da. It's hard to vamp with just my voice. I mean,
I find that very hard to believe.
Well, yes.
Andy Granatelli was an American businessman, most prominent as the CEO of STP, which mileage, as well as a major figure in automobile racing.
STP was motor oil.
Yes, motor oil.
Oh, okay. So, all right. So he had something to do with cars. Woohoo!
It's the damnedest thing because cars in my family are a big deal.
Yeah.
Very big deal. Mm-hmm. Like getting your first car is a rite of passage. Finding out a car that you really like is a rite of passage. Mm-hmm. And for me, I just wanted to find out what lipstick looked best on me.
Same.
Okay. I wasn't all that interested in cars. So Maude's battery is dead.
Her battery's dead. And so I believe she said that she was going to call the garage.
Yes, call Eddie's garage.
Walter, meanwhile, starts looking for his glasses, his reading glasses.
Maude, where are my reading glasses? Mm-hmm. Where they always are, darling. Mm-hmm. Lost. And, we come to the realization that Florida might be moving things around. Yes. Because Maude says Florida may have taken them out of the drawer of the little desk that they have.
Yes.
And she immediately
Yes.
She immediately assumes it's change of life.
That Florida's having her change of life.
Florida is having her change of life.
Because she put starch in Maude's bra the other day when she did the laundry.
That just sounds so painful.
Sounds painful.
And it reminds me of the episode of I Love Lucy where Ricky starches Lucy's leggings.
Oh, yes.
And I don't know why it reminded me of that.
Was it leggings or was it pantyhose?
I think it may be, no, you're right, it was pantyhose.
Was it pantyhose?
It was pantyhose. Holding on these thin gossamer pantyhose. That was too funny.
Turned into like these hard, stiff things.
Yeah.
Oh, but yeah, they definitely yes, and she
spent all day pointing at the ceiling.
Pointed at the ceiling. I don't think that's a bad thing, though. I would prefer to keep them. I prefer to keep mine high and dry.
Oh, I don't like mine high and dry. I like my breasts to look natural.
No.
I do. I don't like looking like I had plastic surgery.
I want to be like Jane Russell with the 36-hour living bra. I want those things to be deadly.
Put somebody's eye out with them.
Yeah, or like Austin Powers, where they had
fembots.
The fembots. They had like weaponry in them. Absolutely.
Please don't make that.
Absolutely.
But it's funny because I distinctly remember sitting in my grandmother's dining room. And it was my mother, my aunt, and my grandmother, and they were all talking about those triangular bras. Mm-hmm. And they used to call them torpedo tits.
Yes.
And, I remember hearing this, and it just hearing the starch and the bra, it brought back so many fond memories.
You know who designed those?
Who?
Howard Hughes.
Of course he did. Of course a man would design a bra.
Yes, because he was infatuated with Jane Russell. And he had that sort of
that shape
torpedo-shaped bra created just for her, and that's what started that trend. Also, like in the 50s, you notice you remember how they had you've seen pinup girls.
Yes.
And the boobs were very much defined,
and high,
pointed.
Like the nipples were always pointed upwards.
Yes, but that was also because. Since the ratings became so strict, since they had to keep everything covered up, that's why if you remember in the 20s, that sort of very flat-chested look was very in for the flappers. But then as what happened was with the movies, the Hayes Act and things like that, it became very strict about showing skin.
Mae West could not show any cleavage.
Right. So what they did was, since they couldn't show bare cleavage, it remained covered up, but it got way bigger.
Yeah.
And so that's what happened. That's why that trend started.
We thank you, Mae West, for providing us with the Hayes Act.
And yes, and Howard Hughes
Howard Hughes for the torpedo tits.
Yes. Yes. So,
Isadora was the first bra burner. Ain't you glad she showed up?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
So I believe then Walter goes into the kitchen, and he's telling Carol that she's probably not going to be able to get to work.
Yep. He says Carol got bad news. Yes. Maud's car is stuck, so you're not going to be able to pull out to get to work. And she says, "Okay, what's the bad news?"
What's the bad news? Right? Yeah. I don't think that was bad news either.
Not at all. And it was. There was something that she said about not working on a Sunday.
Yes.
Or something to that effect.
Yes.
It had to have been a day of the week.
Yeah.
Because I don't think Florida.
Well, you wouldn't be going to work on a Sunday.
You wouldn't be going to work on a Sunday.
Yes. I believe it's at that point Florida and Henry come in, and they're mid-argument.
Yes, they are. They are mid-tiff. Mm-hmm. Because, James is saying, you had to tell him. Mm-hmm. It was almost like James was babysitting her.
Yes, Henry.
Henry was babysitting her. So sorry.
Yes.
I literally said James, and I'm like, no, that's not the name.
Yes, he was still Henry.
He was still Henry.
3 nights later, he became James.
3 nights later, he became
James.
Which means that they were probably filming Good Times while also filming Maude.
Had to have been, yeah.
That's...
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a long work day. Good for them. Good for them.
Yes.
So... Henry and Florida are arguing, and Henry is babysitting Florida because Florida has been time and time again saying, I'll tell them tomorrow. I'll tell them Wednesday. Right. I'll tell them the next day. I forgot.
Yes. Constantly making excuses. about telling them something. We don't know what it is at this point.
So Henry says, well, you're going to tell them or I'm going to tell them.
Right.
And Florida goes on this beautiful little monologue where she's like, these are my family. These are my people. I've worked with them for so many years. You just don't tell them that you're going to up and quit.
Right.
And she caught herself.
Yes.
And that's when Walter and Carol go into like, is everything all right? Is everything, what's the matter? What's happening?
Mm-hmm. And that's when Florida proceeds to explain to them that Henry got a big promotion.
Yep.
And now she can stay home and, take care of her own house, take care of her own kids.
Yep.
And which is completely different than their situation on Good Times. Hence, alternate universe Florida.
Alternate universe.
And you will never, ever, ever convince
you
me
otherwise.
So I'm just putting it out there.
One of my favorite lines, actually, from this episode was Florida saying, Henry might not be the handsomest man in the world, but he's a good provider. To which Henry retorts, Florida, since you've been working with Maude, your lip done grown a full 3 inches.
Right.
And that, of course, means that
she's gotten
smart.
Yeah.
She's gotten smart.
She's gotten a smart mouth.
She has a smart mouth.
So Walter, he's congratulating Henry, and and Henry's saying, "Oh, see, it wasn't all that
Henry
bad."
is, of course, saying, yes, it's not that bad.
Not that big a deal.
Florida's like,
no.
You don't know the half of it,
yes.
brother. She's like, this is only the first half of the batting team.
Yeah.
I still got to face the slugger.
The slugger. And Walter and Carol are saying, oh, she'll be fine.
And Florida, of course, is like, that's easy for you to say. You're just the husband and the daughter.
Yeah.
I'm her best friend.
Yeah. Yes.
And, Henry's like, it's not going to be that bad. So Florida just brilliantly
imitates Maude. Yes.
Saying, just wait, I could just hear her in her Joan Crawford voice. Oh, Florida, darling. You can't leave me like this. You're like family. And before you know it, she's going to put a martini in my hand, and I will be right back where we started.
She's going to sweet talk her into re-enlisting.
Yep.
Is what she said.
So, at that point, Florida, I think, puts on her apron, grabs her dustpan and broom, goes...
But Henry says...
before that?
Sends something to her about, that she's being chicken, and she says she'd rather be a live chicken than a dead duck.
That was good. That was also good. Like there really were some very funny and laughable moments in this episode.
Yes. So she puts on the apron and she goes out to face the music,
and she starts by singing,
"Who's
afraid of the big bad Maude? The big bad Maude."
Yes. Big bad Maude. And then there's Maude. Big bad Maude. The phone rings.
So the phone rings, and we are being led to assume that Florida is talking to her mother.
Her mother.
Because she's saying, oh, hello, mother.
Hello, mother.
That's nice, mother.
Yeah.
I have a full work day ahead of me.
Yes.
Can you call back later?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right, mother. Well, all right, mother. Well, goodbye, mother.
Yes.
And hangs up on her mother.
What we think is her mother.
And Maude comes downstairs and she goes, Florida, who are you on the phone with? And Florida turns to Maude and goes, your mother.
Your mother.
Which, I mean, at that point, it only goes to prove that Florida has become a real member of the family.
But there was another episode where that happened, where Maude was on the phone with her mother, and she was at one of the
Florida
parties.
on the phone,
And Florida's just like, yes, mother.
Yes.
No, mother.
No, mother. Yes, mother. No, mother.
The mother didn't even know the difference.
Yep. Because their voices are just so similar.
Now we find out that Maude found Walter's glasses with her panties.
And Florida's like, well, maybe they were just trying to read the cleaning labels. Very cute. And then they sort of get into this very awkward quarrel.
Yeah.
Where, Maude is saying, look, if you can't handle that, have you tried hormones?
Have you tried hormones?
Have you tried hormones?
No, I haven't.
Do you
haven't?
Okay, story time.
Yes, please.
So, years ago, when I started balding, I was like, what can I do to prevent loss of hair? And I was saying to myself, maybe I could take biotin treatments. Maybe I could potentially do a hair transplant because there's just so much hair on the rest of my body.
God, tell me
Can we
about it.
please just take the hair on my body and put it on my head?
It's like when they were creating us, when the good Lord was creating us.
Yes, I got it here.
They were like, oh, what are we gonna do? Well, it's like, well, yeah. Oh, we're gonna give them this. Gonna give this. Oh, let's make them a drag queen. Oh, and hairy as AF. That because both of us.
Hairy as
both
gorillas.
Of us. Hairy as gorillas.
Hairy as gorillas.
Except on the top of the head. Everywhere else. And it was just like and God and all the angels, they were just laughing and laughing. Oh, that's hilarious. That's what I envisioned.
We love this journey for us. Let me tell the anecdotal. The first time my mother cut my hair, because that's what my mother used to do. My mother used to give me a haircut.
Right.
And she cut it so short, I'm like, this is the beginning of the end.
Yeah.
This is the beginning of the end for every piece of hair on my head. So what I did was I looked everything up. And do you know how many times I saw people saying, don't take prenatals? Because that's what I ended up doing. I took prenatals. I took prenatals, I took biotin, and I did biotin treatments. But the biotin treatments, I bought a specific shampoo explicitly for, like, slowing down the process.
Right.
Because there's no way to regrow the hair.
Right.
It's just, it slows it down.
Right.
And I took prenatals, and do you know how many people were just like, don't take prenatals, they have hormones in them? That it's a rumor.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Because I remember taking them, and I remember reading somewhere it was just like, prenatals do have a specific hormone in it, and I'm like, I think that's a lie.
Oh. I don't know. I never heard.
Because that's what I did. I took prenatals, and it helped strengthen my nails. My hair looked great for a period of time. So it's just a lot of maintenance, and I was just like, the hell with it.
Okay. Well, I started I use what is it? I signed up for the thing Hims. Okay, so it's like drops you put on the scalp.
Is it like Bosley minoxidil methods?
I don't know. I guess it's just minoxidil. But they also gave me like a prescription for Fenestra. Yeah, it's supposed to help regrow the hair.
Yeah.
Here's the thing though.
Oh no.
There were like some side effects of the Fenestra I did not like.
Oh dear.
Yeah. In the down below department, let's put it that way. And I've never in my life experienced any difficulties in the down below department.
I can't look at you. I can't look at you. If I look at you, I'm going to piss myself.
Needless to say, I stopped taking the Fenestra. I was like, I would rather be bald as a cue ball than, have things not functioning properly.
Oh, I'm dying and I'm dead. I'm not looking at you the remainder of this episode.
Welcome to the final episode.
Welcome to the
God
last
will get
episode.
you for that, Walter.
God will get you for that one. Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. But it's true. But all these things have side effects.
Of course, they all have side effects. I've never had one as invasive as that.
Yeah, I was like, this ain't good.
I was
like, this ain't right.
There was always a part of me that would be like, I'm taking all of these things. Does that mean that more hair is going to grow below my neck? Because I don't feel like experiencing what it's going to be like to turn into a werewolf. But I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
I am so sorry.
Not as sorry as I
Did it? Did it really not work?
It was,
a struggle.
It was a downer.
Oh my God. Welcome to the last episode of Dying Get You That Walter.
Well, if we're going to keep it real.
Oh my God.
Are we going to keep it real? But that's what that stuff can do to you.
And was it not on the list of contraindications? Like, don't take this with X, Y, and Z. This is what it will. This is a side effect.
Well, I didn't look up the side effects until I was experiencing one. Because then all of a sudden you're like, what in the name of Jesus is going on here? What in tarnation? Because I have another hormone story I can tell you. Like when I was first coming out, and like my family was like they couldn't believe it, and like my father actually wanted to take me to like
church,
a doctor to get male hormones.
Yeah.
And like my boyfriend at the time was like he wants to. He said, if you had any more testosterone in your system, I wouldn't be able to walk. He was like, that's definitely not the issue.
Not for nothing. That is a side effect of having too much testosterone. It's the same thing as being on a specific type of steroid. It makes you hyper masculine. Now that we've gotten all of that out of our system. Yes. So, and it's also funny that we point out male pattern baldness because one of the signatures of James Evans was he always had that sort of horseshoe hairdo situation.
Yes.
Sort of like Mr. Jefferson. Mm-hmm. And I can't for the life of me remember Mr. Jefferson's name or the actor who played him.
Sherman Hemsley.
Thank you, Sherman Helmsley.
Helmsley. Yes. Yes. Which,
and also, Walter suffered from.
Yeah, he had a
bald spot.
Yeah, and Arthur was thin on top.
Very thin on top.
Yeah.
Arthur was very thin on top.
Yeah, but that look of that horseshoe look.
That was very popular in the 70s.
Men don't wear that nowadays. So it's like
not since George Carlin.
Either they keep it very very short, like yours, or they shave completely.
I mean, there are times when here's a little something about Tom. If my face and my hair look so grisly that I can't look at myself in the mirror, I'm like, no, we have to do something. That is a perfect indication of my mental health. Because it's just, this is all maintenance. It's maintenance to constantly shave my face. It's maintenance to constantly buzz my hair. It's maintenance to constantly tweeze my eyebrows. My eyebrows are my fortune. If I lose them, I lose everything.
Yes.
It's
all over for us.
When I started doing drag, I was like, do I want to glue down my brows? Do I feel comfortable gluing down my brows? Like when I do Winifred Sanderson, I glue my brows down and I foundation over them, and I look great.
Right.
But I can't do that all the time. And there was actually a moment I had the razor in my hand.
Yeah.
And I was looking at myself in the mirror, and I'm like, let's just shave them off.
Yeah.
Just shave them off. What's the worst that could happen? Thank God I didn't.
I mean, that thought goes through my head sometimes because
it's a lot.
I'm in drag a lot more than
you. Yes, you're in drag far more than I am.
And it's like I've thought about it, like how much easier it would be if I didn't have to deal with them. But on the other hand, when I'm just myself, I'm like, no, I can't be without brows. I will.
I'm not laughing at that. I'm still laughing at the fenestra.
The fenestra. Oh my Lord.
I'm sorry. No, I could not picture you without
eyebrows. Oh no.
I mean, you would look.
Alien.
You would look almost like Teddy Savalas.
Okay.
You would look a little bit like Telly Savalas.
Yeah.
I don't think he had eyebrows either.
Probably not.
Telly Savalas, not Teddy Savalas.
Yeah, Kojak.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh my goodness gracious.
I'm like, no. When I'm not in drag, I want like everything about me that's masculine
to go away.
to remain. No, when I'm out of drag.
Oh, when you're out of drag, yes. Just
out
still
of
look,
drag,
yes.
I want everything about me that's masculine to be masculine.
No, I get that.
You know.
I get that.
You know, because like for me, it's like when I'm a man, I want to be a man.
Yeah.
When I'm in drag, I want to, you know, be
You want to present as feminine as possible.
I want to look as feminine as possible, create as much of that illusion as
and
possible.
honestly,
But that's just me.
That's one of the reasons why I like keeping my eyebrows, because I like the sort of androgyny that I pull off from time to time. Like, especially when I do have, when I have like very minimal makeup on, if I do any makeup at all outside of traditional drag. You know, it's a very interesting conversation. Very interesting conversation about gender and makeup and transformations.
It is.
Speaking of transformations,
So Maude and Florida are fighting.
they're in a bit of it. They're having an argument
And
where Florida basically comes out and says, "Why don't you just come out and say that you're firing me?"
yeah,
And
that you're trying to fire me. And she proclaims that she's quitting.
Yep.
And Maude she starts laughing.
She's like, "Okay,
Yeah.
now that we've gotten that out of our system, I apologize. I'm sorry."
Apologize. She said she's you know she.
Have you ever had that happen to you, where you like get into an argument with somebody and then finally the other person relents and says, "Okay, I'm sorry"?
Oh, all the time.
Pisses me off. Just admit you were wrong the first time.
All the time.
Just admit you were wrong the first time.
And Florida just tells her, you know, she's leaving.
Yeah.
And Maude goes into this thing about she's like, you know, part of
You're
the
my
family.
sister!
You're my sister!
You're my sister!
And, you know, Florida's just like, oh, Lord.
Oh, brother.
Oh, brother. Yes. You're my sister. Oh, brother. And Maude is like, you know,
Crestfallen.
Yeah.
She's crestfallen.
She's, you know, pleading with Florida. She's like, what's going on? It has to be something.
And Florida's like, maybe it's my own life. Maybe it's my own family.
She tells her she's quitting for herself,
Yeah.
not because of Maude. She wants it to do me full time, I think is how she put it.
Yes. And I think at that point, that's where Maude's like, oh, you really must hate me.
Tells her she can't believe she stooped that low.
Yep.
And Florida points out to her that when her mouth is open, her ears are closed.
Yep. When your mouth is open, it closes your ears.
A lot of people like that.
A lot of people like that.
Some, you know,
Trust me,
we know quite a few.
There are times when I will hear an argument and I'm like, can we just listen and not talk?
Yes.
Like, just understand what's happening in the
Right.
world around you.
No. I think it's about at that point
Walter and Carol
came out from the kitchen and
they enter from the kitchen.
Walter, I think he was asking Maude about the car.
Yes.
Did she call the garage? And Carol's like, you know, oh, did Florida tell you about Henry's promotion?
Yep.
And then Maude is like, what you're really quitting?
Yep. Reality starts to set in for Maude.
Yeah. And I have something about the change of. She was like, "Why did you make me go through this change of life nonsense?"
Yes, because that's
she's blaming Florida
because
for her bringing up the nonsense.
Yep, we love deflection. Deflection is our favorite.
Yes,
deflection is magnificent.
And then we get into like Maude, you know, being into, oh Florida, I'm so happy for you.
Let me make you a martini.
Let me make you a martini. It's like, oh no.
Yeah, she backs away saying, oh no. And then I think at that point,
Carol mentions, to Florida that maybe she can get her own housekeeper.
Yes.
And Florida is like, oh no, I don't want anybody putting starch in my bra. Oh.
And then at that point, Florida exits into the kitchen, and you know, Florida, Carol, and Walter, Maude, Carol, and Walter just have a chat shit for a bit.
And Carol's saying like she feels like she's gonna cry.
Yeah.
And Maude says, you know, well, they're talking about how they're gonna have to find a new housekeeper, and Maude's like, well,
Maude's like, we'll keep Florida on until we find another housekeeper.
Yeah, she'll stay longer. She'll stay until we find somebody else.
And Walter says, Maude, it took us 6 months to find her.
Yeah.
And Maude goes, I know, Walter. Now, does Florida take one or two olives?
How many olives does she take in her martini? That's where we went to break.
Yes, there was the commercial.
Then we went to break. We come back and
Walter's at the kitchen table working on a microwave or radio?
Yeah, probably.
One of those two.
Yeah.
Or it could have possibly been the car battery.
No.
No, you
I
don't think
so. I don't think so.
I mean, it had a wire attached to it, so it probably wasn't.
No.
I'm not good with car stuff.
Me either. I'm like every day for me.
I'm all
I put the key in and I say, please God, just let it start.
Say a prayer to the car gods.
Yeah,
say a prayer to the car gods.
I don't know anything else. Anything needs done, I bring it down the street.
Yep.
Carol comes in.
Carol comes in with a bag, and she's carrying a pair of jeans. And she says, look, Walter, aren't these cute? And she holds them up to herself. Now, it's important to remember that the pair of jeans that Carol is holding up, they're very... Form-fitting.
Yes.
And they have a giant embroidered heart on the rear end.
Yes.
And, Walter goes, you're going to get a lot of whistles.
Yes.
And she goes, I hope not. These are for Philip. And... I mean, I'm all for progressive parenting, but Carol, what would possess you to get a pair of jeans for your son?
That was the thing.
Really?
In the 70s. Your jeans, the designer
patches.
jeans.
I understand patches.
Not patches, but the designer jeans became huge. Like the Jordache jeans.
Okay.
Who was the other big brand? I can't remember the name, but that was the thing. Was these designer jeans, and they had like a special pattern in the stitching on like the back pockets, and that was like a status thing. It was like you couldn't just wear regular plain old jeans. They had to be.
Is this almost like where you have the bandana hanging out of the back pocket and it means a specific thing?
That's the hanky code. Honey.
Oh,
completely different.
Hanky code.
Completely different.
I'm playing dumb. I know exactly what the hanky code is.
She knows. What was the other one? Giorgio something.
It wasn't Giorgio Armani.
No, it was, but there was some other designer.
Or was it
brand.
Giorgio's?
What's his name? Gloria Vanderbilt was her designer jeans were like a big
status.
Thing. Gloria Vanderbilt jeans.
Okay.
And
it has to do with status.
Yes. And you did not wash these jeans.
No.
These jeans went to the dry cleaners. Your designer jeans.
Real? Well.
Your designer jeans went to the dry cleaners. Yes, you did not wash your designer jeans.
I've never been in a position where I was like, I'm going to dry clean my jeans.
Yes.
Just never occurred to me.
Yes, but the designer jeans, that was a big thing. A big thing. And actually, Saturday Night Live actually made a very funny
skit,
like a commercial parody about designer jeans. They had Gilda Radner. She was wearing, because the thing was like the design on the back pocket. So she was doing this thing for Jewess jeans, and they had a big Star of David on the back pocket.
I was checking my phone, and then as soon as I heard USA, my head snapped around.
U.S. jeans.
Jeans. God bless.
Yes. What was it? And there was like a song, like she's a what was it? She's a disco diva and something about being like a Jewish American princess.
Yes, watch it on SNL, but watch it on Hulu before they take it away.
On YouTube. I'm sure.
Most assuredly.
And that at the end they were like, you don't have to be Jewish. And then Gilda Radner turns to the camera and she's like, but it wouldn't hurt.
Oh,
hilarious.
Gilda.
Hilarious. It was hilarious. Look it up
much.
on YouTube. Saturday Night
I
Live.
have to. Saturday Night Live. Jewess jeans.
Well, so Carol wants to know.
Carol says
where's Maude?
No, there was another line that
there
Walter
was.
said.
What?
I remember it distinctly. Carol says that these jeans are for Philip, and Walter says, well, you just broke the hearts of a few 50,000 truckers.
Truck drivers, yes. They wouldn't be seeing
Carol in those jeans.
Yeah.
But they saw her in practically everything else.
Yeah, really. Exactly.
I mean, not for nothing, Adrienne Barbeau, even today, is a very striking woman.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Like, she's very attractive, even today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So now I think then she gets to asking where Maude is, and you find out she's interviewing applicants. And there's this whole thing about, like, it's harder for them to pick an applicant than to pick a president.
Mm-hmm. And Walter goes, well, that's right, Carol. We're more particular about picking... Right. How to pick a maid.
Yes.
And there was this big laugh, and I'm like, something's missing. There had to have been more than that. But I mean, oh no, I know what it was. Walter did something funny with his eyes.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And then, Walter says something to the effect of, she has an easier time picking husbands than picking maids.
Yes, yes.
And that's when Carol says, I know, she's very particular about how she picks her husbands, and then does the same funny eye thing.
Yes.
It was honestly a very cute moment between Carol and Walter. I appreciated it.
So that's when Maude comes in with the applicant, and she's like very almost
Blasé,
robotic.
yep.
Yes, and
here's the kitchen and my husband and my daughter, and that's all you have to see of this, and then exits.
Wasn't she like, here's the stove, here's the sink, and she was like, not very excited about it.
Yep. I think they leave, and then Florida enters.
And Walter's like, another reject.
Yep.
And Carol's remarking that, she just can't replace Florida.
And then at that point, that's when
they have that thing about. That's when they mentioned the thing about picking husbands.
Picking husbands.
About husbands, and I think Walter said, yeah, maybe she'd think of them as picking a husband instead of picking a maid.
Yep.
So yes,
she's never had a hard time picking a husband.
Right. I believe it's at that point Florida comes in. She's dancing with the mop because it's her last tango in Tuckahoe.
Have you ever been to Tuckahoe?
No, I've never been to Tuckahoe.
And
you know what? I've never been to me. But I've been to paradise.
Welcome to God'll Get You for That, Walter, where every episode is the last episode.
The final episode. Do you remember that from that song?
Yes. And then I've never been to me. I've been to paradise.
I've been to paradise.
Yeah.
But they did it in Priscilla, Queen of the Desert.
Yes.
That's the opening number. So
I would love to perform Priscilla at some point.
Mm-hmm. You know what the problem is? People don't do those kind of drag performances anymore. It's sad. It's sad. You don't see ballads being done. I've started doing them though on TikTok.
Lacage. Lacage is the only one that I know has been done a few times.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously Zsa Zsa singing "I Am What I Am."
Mm-hmm. And I'm doing that at the.
You're doing that at the
Broadway
brunch,
cabaret.
at the Broadway cabaret.
Yes.
I think we're gonna possibly get something similar with Tu Wong Fu the musical, if and when they ever finally get it.
They're trying to turn that into a musical.
Mm-hmm. They're trying to turn it into a musical. I don't know if they're going to cast straight actors in the part or gay actors in the part or queer actors or non-binary actors in the part.
Who knows? I'm sure whoever they pick, there'll be controversy.
There's going to be controversy regardless.
Yes,
there's going to be controversy regardless.
You can't put anybody in anything anymore without there being controversy. But Florida is dancing with her mop.
Yep, for her last tango in Tuckahoe.
And Carol's asking her, what is she going to do now that, she's not going to be working?
And she says, well, when Henry's alarm goes off, I'm going to loll around in bed.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm probably going to get up, clean my kids' clothes, or just
give them breakfast.
Get them ready for
school,
send them off.
She's got to clean the bathroom, clean the kitchen, so,
She's still going to be doing all of her tasks that she does at home. It's going to be her.
Yeah.
And she even remarks and says, sorry, my family.
Right. So, Carol, Carol's saying how that they haven't found a replacement.
Yeah.
And then they start taking bets.
They start taking bets
on what Maude's
Carol,
excuse for rejecting
Carol takes
the
out $1 and says, I got $1 that she's left-handed.
Right.
And Walter says too tall.
Right.
And then Florida comes back
Because
and
the
says...
too tall, she rejected didn't she reject
a Swedish
midget for being too tall.
A Swedish midget for being too tall.
And Florida picked Shifty Eyes.
Yep.
Yes. And then she decides she's going to go spy on the interview.
Yep.
By dusting.
Yep.
Which she does.
Which she does.
Yes.
And we come out to see Byron, Gene Byron, sitting down next to Maude, and they're having a conversation about how the house is probably too big, and Maude is trying to make it as blatantly obvious as possible that she does not want to hire this woman.
Right.
And
she's telling her, I'm sure it's going to be a lot of hard work. It's a big house.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah.
And this woman was sent from the agency.
From the agency, yes.
Sent from the agency.
Yes. And she tells Maude, oh, no, that's no problem. I worked on an estate.
I've worked on an estate. I'm used to big houses. And Maude says, well, then I'm sure you'll feel awful cramped.
And you'll feel cramped. And then she proceeds to tell Maude that, she worked 8 years for the Ford family.
8 years for the Ford family.
Which, Maude is just feels so terrible for her.
We must, we're a Toyota family. Yes. We throw everything everywhere.
They're more like Toyotas.
And Maude is laughing and Gene Byron is not.
Yes.
And she turns to Gene and goes, I guess the Fords weren't a fun family.
Right, they weren't fun. And she's saying, well, we couldn't possibly pay you the salary that you're looking for.
Yeah. And we find out that she's not really in it for the money. She's just, it's close enough to the city where she can go to Columbia to do night school.
Yes, because she's going 2 nights a week. She's getting her degree in English literature. So obviously she's an intelligent woman.
Yep.
And at that point, that's when Maude introduces Florida to the applicant.
Yes. And she mentions how since Maude has been interviewing applicants, Florida has made cleaning that specific room her life's work.
Yes.
To which Florida retorts, God of Cambridge will get you for that.
Yes. And I think that's when she went back into the kitchen to start the countdown.
Yep. 3, 2, 1, going. The door slams, gone. So at that point, Maude enters.
No, Walter went out.
Walter goes out into
the living room.
Sorry.
And he's like, what was wrong with her? And she's like, everything. She's
first the house was too big, then it was too small.
She's telling you she wasn't even she didn't know anything. She's even going to night school.
She's so stupid. She's even going to night school.
Yes, and she had shifty eyes.
Yep.
And that's like Florida peeks
out, waving the dollars in her hand.
She won the bet.
She won the bet.
And Walter's like, you're turning everyone down. It's so obvious that she doesn't want Florida to leave.
Yep.
And Maude starts talking about Walter's bachelor apartment.
Yes, how there were clothes on the floor.
It was a rat's nest.
It was a rat's nest.
Clothes everywhere, clothes on the floor.
And Walter cuts her off and says, Your clothes, Maude.
Yes.
And I did not have it written down what Maude said.
Oh, I don't remember.
Oh, that's when the doorbell rings and Maude says, saved by the bell again, Walter.
So Walter says, why don't you let
Florida interview her?
Let her handle it.
Yeah.
So, they...
Maude says that's a great idea.
Yes. So that's what they decide to do. They're going to let Florida interview the applicant. Yeah. And,
actually, Florida enters and she says, that's a great idea.
That's a great idea, yeah.
And Maude's like, Florida, you were eavesdropping.
Yes.
And Florida's like, yeah, that's right. And Maude turns to Walter and goes, see, where are we going to get a maid as clever as Florida?
Right. So, and Florida tells them, to go in the kitchen, and she tells Maude for her not to eavesdrop.
Yeah.
Which worked out well.
Which worked out very well.
Yes.
And Maude's like, but I get final approval.
Right.
So Maude and Walter exit to the kitchen. And Florida opens the door to Miss Conchata Ferrell. And this was her first acting role on television.
Really? This was the very first?
This was her first television appearance was on Maude.
Yes, and
to those unfamiliar, Conchata Ferrell is very famous for being a character actor in movies like Oh God, what was that Adam Sandler movie with Winona Ryder? Mr. Biggs, Mr. Deeds,
Mr. Deeds.
Mr. Deeds.
Well, also she was a regular on
Two and a Half Men.
2.5 Men.
Yep.
She was on.
She was
that.
the maid.
She was their maid, and I told you previously she was on like a very short-lived but very controversial show.
Yes.
Not too much longer after this Maude appearance.
Yeah.
Called Hot L Baltimore.
Yes, Hot L Baltimore.
Because it was the Hotel Baltimore, but the neon sign. The E
was broken.
So that's why it read Hot L Baltimore. And it was actually one of the first shows where like they had like a warning before the show started, saying that it was for mature audiences.
Really?
Yes, the very first time. And this was on, I think it was on Channel 7. And it was a hotel, like
she played April Green.
Yes, Green. She was a prostitute. You know, they never actually come out and say the word prostitute.
Of course not.
You know, they use the euphemisms like, you know, lady of the evening and all that. And, you know, I don't think they even use streetwalker. But
we've been called that before.
Yes, many times. We wear that badge proudly. And
some more proud than others.
Yes. But yeah, it was, you know, very sort of like a seedy motel, and you know, it was frequented by
frequent flyers,
by prostitutes and things like that, and that's where they did their business. And it was like a really very, very controversial show. Only like 13 episodes aired. It was it was like, you know, very controversial. The thing that I liked about it though was really Conchetta Farrell. Because she was you know a Zoftic woman.
She was Zoftic.
And you know, she was shown as being this sort of you know, a very
great beauty.
A beauty, and you know, and a woman who owned her own sexuality. Even though she was like a plus size woman, it wasn't like, you know, she was any less, you know, sexier or anything like that.
I mean, you know, in the grand scheme of things, you know, plus sized women have always been sort of viewed as headstrong, in charge of their own destiny. You know, you look at Maude, you look at characters like Ursula, you look at, I'm going to use Divine's character Babs Johnson, Dawn Davenport. I'm trying to think of like other buxom women, any role that Mae West has played. Like you see these women who like lead with their chests. And you know, to certain audiences that could be very intimidating. You know, so it's very interesting just to see the evolution of the Zoftig larger woman who's sort of this commanding presence, and even look at Lizzo's new dance competition.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
It's specifically a larger woman's dance competition.
Oh, good.
And I'm really all about it. So just, you know, we need more plus-sized representation, damn it.
Definitely. So
representation matters.
So Florida, you know, greets. Was it Mrs. Valdez that you called her? Was it Mrs. or Ms.?
Rita. Ms. Rita Valdez.
Miss
Rita Valdez.
Rita Valdez. So you know, she's handing Florida her resume.
Yep.
But Florida
is disinterested.
Yeah, she could care less about the resume.
She's like, I want to ask you some questions.
Right.
How did you vote in the last election?
And she was like, well, she was out of state, so she didn't vote.
Darn.
And Florida Marcia, you know, your color is no good.
and Rita responds, well, what's wrong with my color? And Florida goes, you ain't got any.
And she's like asking her these things like, have you ever been arrested for picketing or, you know, things?
Or protesting.
She's like, no, of course not, never. And Florida just was like, oh no, that's
you're gonna be a hard sell.
Honey, that's a hard sell.
So Rita finally stops and goes, well, now I have a question for you. Is this a residence or is this
an outpatient
clinic? And that's when Florida explains, the Findlays are nice people, but Maude is a bleeding heart liberal. You need to
feed her guilt.
You need to feed her guilt.
Yes. And I think that's when she mentioned, Rita mentioned something about, you know, like when her family came here from Puerto Rico.
Cottage cheese and guilt. That's the bleeding heart liberals die.
Yes. And so Florida's is like, oh, there's the clown in the silver lining.
Yep.
Puerto Rico goes good.
Puerto
with
Rico,
cottage
that goes
cheese.
good with cottage cheese.
She figures this is her in for selling
Such a great
Rita
line, man.
to Maude. So back in the kitchen, Walter and Maude, they're arguing, and because Maude she wants to get right in there, and Maude, she can't hold back anymore, so she goes into the living room, Walter following, and that's when Florida introduces Rita to Maude.
Yep. Now, it's important to remember that Conchata's character initially spoke perfect English.
Mm-hmm. No accent.
No accent, no nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Just speaking her truth as is.
Yeah, that was her normal voice. She didn't have an accent,
Now,
Yes. Now.
Florida goes to Maude and shows, look. Well, Maude goes to Rita, holds out her hand and says, "We thank you so much, Rita, but we're not interested."
Right. She's ready to
because Maude and Walter were
discussing.
discussing how Maude is going to bend over backwards
to
try and appease Florida and Walter.
Yes.
So she immediately goes out, holds out her hand, and says, "We thank you so much, Ms. Valdez, but we're not interested." So Walter, turns to her and says, "I don't want you to hurt yourself bending over backwards."
Oh, you know what we missed?
What did we miss?
Forgot when Florida was talking to Rita. There was something about shoe fly pie. There was something that doesn't mean shoe fly pie.
Yes, the resume doesn't mean shoe fly pie. The resume just doesn't mean shoe fly pie. Because we need to. That is important.
Yes, it's important to note that because yes, Florida told Rita that her resume didn't mean shoe fly pie.
Yeah.
So Maude is telling, or
I was gonna say Maude comes back. So Walter retorts at Maude saying, "I don't want you to break your back bending over backwards for her."
Right.
So Maude turns to Walter and says, "If music be the food of love, go swallow a
banjo." Yes.
So Florida goes to Maude, introduces the resume, and says, "Look at nationality." And Maude folds the resume indignantly.
Yes.
Says, "I'm shocked. You know nationality doesn't mean shoe fly pie to me."
Right. That is important to mention how that shoe fly pie comes up quite a bit in the episode.
Correct. So I believe at that point, Maude turns to Rita and says, "I'm so sorry for your troubles, but please, basically she's trying to kick Rita out of the house.
Right.
But Rita, in her ever so brilliant mind, puts on this very heavy Spanish accent.
Yeah.
And at that moment, Maude holds out her arm and puts it around Conchata and says, "Our new housekeeper is Puerto Rican."
Yes,
we get to that. Go ahead. What happens before that?
So she's saying something about New York.
Yes.
And that's when Maude's like, Did you say
New York? And Rita goes on this tangent about how living in New York was muy difícil.
Yes.
And, this big to-do where Rita is feeding Maude's guilt.
Yes. So Maude is like this.
Because
our new housekeeper is Puerto Rican.
Because Maude is classically a white savior.
Yes. She has to be the white savior.
She has to be the white savior.
Yes. And then she starts asking Rita, she said, "You must have had a horrible childhood."
Oh, the worst childhood ever.
Yes. And Rita's like, sí.
Sí, señora.
Yes.
Mi madre and mi padre came here from Los Estados Unidos. And Maude turns to...
They came to
Los Estados Unidos.
Yes, and Maude's like, that's the
means
United States, Walter.
Because
now obviously she's fluent in Spanish.
Well, it stands to reason because Maude majored in love languages.
Oh, that's okay.
She majored in foreign languages. Okay. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
A major in romance languages. Thank you.
Yes. So Maude says, well, we're gonna have you laughing, And Rita laughs, and Maude's
because Rita is laughing at the absurdity that is
Yes.
Maude Findlay.
Yes.
And Maude's like, I love a Spanish laugh. Just
yes. So Maude tells her
terrible.
that we'll see you on Monday. Oh, of course she's saying, you don't have to be here first thing. 12:30 is fine. And
12:30 is fine.
yes, because it's the same MO that she had with Florida.
It's so funny. I am not a fan of the Carol Burnett show.
No.
I appreciate what Carol Burnett has done for women in comedy, but the show and the bits and the skits just felt a little too long,
Oh.
Like I remember watching it years ago, and I'm like, I'm bored.
Oh.
Like, I loved the Gone with the Wind sketch with the costume that was designed by Bob Mackie.
Yes.
Loved that to bits and pieces. But I just felt that it was so drawn out. And I remember watching the bit where Carol is impersonating Maude, where it's broad.
Oh, I don't remember that one.
It's on YouTube. I strongly recommend it.
I have to watch it.
But it's so drawn out. But Carol's mannerisms impersonating B, Carol's impersonating B,
right?
And that because I'm like Carol, but no, that's Carol, her daughter. And then I thought about Carol, who was portrayed by an actress whom I do not know, and oh God, why is his name escaping me? Was Walter?
Was it Harvey Korman?
I think it was Harvey Korman.
Okay, it makes sense.
I think it was Harvey Korman as Walter, and just watching, and then Wheezy was the Florida role, and her name was Georgia.
Okay.
And I watch it, and then we can discuss it in the next episode.
All right, we have to do that.
And it was just so funny because Carol played up the white guilt and the white savior, where she enters, Wheezy enters, and again I cannot remember the actress's name for the life of me, and Carol as Maude.
Wasn't it Isabel Sanford who played?
I think so. Isabel Sanford. That sounds serviceable at this hour. Carol as Maude falls to the ground and says, "Oh, thank you for coming into my home and working for me. I know how difficult things are for you in the ghetto." Just so over the top. But I mean, it was 7 minutes, and I'm like, I feel bored.
Well, you have to remember, I think people's attention spans
were much longer. Much longer.
Also, the Carol Burnett show was an hour-long show.
Yes.
They had a lot of
time.
They had
a lot of time to fill.
And it was a weekly show. To, a 1 hour comedy variety show.
But you want to know what doesn't bore me?
What?
Sonny and Cher.
Oh, okay.
I could watch Sonny and Cher every single day. But for some reason, the Carol Burnett show just does nothing for me. I mean, yes, there was the one bit with the dentist who does the morphine injections and accidentally does morphine injections on his hands and his forehead and just everywhere. That I was peeing my pants. But like there were certain skits where I'm just like, this is so long.
Interesting.
Potpourri for you.
Okay.
But yes, there was a Carol Burnett impersonation. There was a B. Arthur impersonation.
I don't remember that. I have to watch it because I always watch
the
Carol
costume.
I have to watch it.
Broad's costume, Walter's accent. Just it was nice. It was all nice.
All right.
So at that point,
Rita leaves,
and says, "Gracias, señora, gracias. Hasta la vista." That's what Maude says to Rita, and then she turns around to Walter and says, "That means see you later."
Yes.
And as Rita exits,
Henry's walking in to pick up Florida.
Yeah. And the mood changes.
Yeah.
There's a definite mood shift.
Yeah.
So,
Walter's like, "Oh, you're here right on the dot to pick up Florida."
A punto.
Yes. Oh, a punto.
That means on the dot.
On the dot.
And Maude turns to Walter and says, "Well, besame mucho."
Besame mucho.
That means go sit on a taco. It doesn't mean go sit on a taco.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
So Henry enters, and it's like so soon. I guess it's time.
So Maude goes into the kitchen to tell Florida that
Henry's here.
Henry's there.
Henry is here.
Yes.
John Amos is here to pick up Esther Roll.
Is there to pick her up. And Maude's saying, well, this is it.
Yeah. And then they have this very interesting bit of dialogue where, Maude is like, the commute's only 45 minutes away. We're going to be seeing each other more than we did when you worked for us.
Yes, they're going to be adult about it. No tears. They're going to be adult about it.
No tears.
Yes.
We'll be going out to you, Florida. You'll be coming up to us.
And that's when Florida says,
that's not how life
isn't
works.
Really like that.
Life isn't really like
We're not likely to see each other. Like maybe we'll never see each other again.
Or ever.
Yeah.
And Maude's like, that's right, Florida. Yeah. And it really is a somber moment in the series.
Very bittersweet.
Very bittersweet.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I don't think Esther Roll or B. Arthur saw each other after that episode. I don't think. Like maybe they had lunch every so often, but I remember distinctly that there was an episode of RuPaul where RuPaul had Esther Roll and B on for an episode. I think it was in '94, and B had said like I haven't seen her in years.
Wow.
So it does stand to. It's almost like
people are they're working actors.
Yeah.
They're doing shows, TV, and it's just
and anybody who's anybody in the community theater world knows that there is a real possibility that you won't see your co-stars until the next show,
right?
If ever,
right?
So it's really interesting.
Yeah. So
so at that point they're like having this bitter realization that it's just that's not how this works,
right?
And Maude turns to Florida and she starts wincing and goes, "I've changed my mind."
Yeah, she is gonna.
I'm gonna cry. And Florida looks to her and says, and I tell you, the first time I saw this episode, I also cried.
Oh,
I did. Especially like as soon as I saw Esther Roll start breaking, because I'm like, oh, this is actually happening.
Yeah.
And Florida turns to Maude and says, "You mind if I join you?"
Right.
And then they hug it out.
Yeah.
And that's how the episode ends.
Yeah, and there was no epilogue, which was unusual. It was unusual. That's
all things considered, it was a relatively long episode. Usually I think they would probably put epilogues if they wanted something a little bit snappier. But
True.
I think Norman Lear, being the brilliant writer that he is, probably wanted it to end right when they hug, because it's like, how would you do an epilogue?
Yeah,
there's no way to have done an epilogue.
No, it really wouldn't have fit. So there really was.
If they were going to do anything, they would have done an epilogue where it was after Rita leaves. That would be the only time I think they would be able to have gotten away with it. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. The only thing I could see was
car stuff.
Or just Maude and Walter at the kitchen table, maybe after Florida's already gone, and just commenting something about that. I don't know. But it ended the way it did.
It ended the way that it was honestly supposed to.
Yes.
I don't think you could have perfected on that any more than was already done.
No, I don't think so.
But yeah, it was definitely one of my favorite episodes.
Yes.
God knows I have so many of them.
My Lord, we ran the gamut of tangents.
Oh my God!
On this
episode.
Everything from the Jeffersons to male pattern baldness, erectile dysfunction. I mean, we took it everywhere this time.
We did.
No,
but I mean, honestly,
no stone left unturned.
No stone unturned. But I mean, what a good episode to sort of have these tangents on, because all things considered, if you want to watch episodes of Maude, and if you want to engage in the series, this is definitely one of the episodes that I recommend. I recommend Florida's Goodbye. I obviously recommend Maude Meets Florida.
Yes. That would be a great, a bookend, right? Watch the one where she meets, and then the
one where
goodbye.
she ends. Yeah.
Yes.
Not to say that the series is ending, and not to say that this podcast is ending, because we still have Mrs. Naugatuck to get through.
Yes.
Oh God,
yeah.
That's something I would love to see us do at one point.
Okay.
Me as Maude, you as Mrs. Naugatuck.
All right.
I think You've seen episodes with Mrs. Naugatuck,
Yeah.
yes? I think you would be hysterical as Mrs. Naugatuck.
Of course I would. How could I not?
And so modest.
Modesty is one of my strongest traits.
Of course it
and I
is.
say that in all modesty.
Of course you do. So humble. The most humble. The humblest of
I'm the
drag
humblest of the humble.
So we thank you. We thank you for joining us on another episode of God Will Get You For That, Walter. If you would like to follow us, you can on all forms of social media at God Will Get You For That, Walter on YouTube
Yes.
and Facebook.
Yes.
If you would like to follow us on Instagram, you can at Findley's Friendly Appliances. And that is also our Gmail account if you would like to send us commentary or fan stuff.
Yes.
You can at Findley's Friendly Appliances at gmail.com. If you would like to follow me, you can at That Tomcat on all forms of social media, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, everywhere. Is where
And your
I
website.
am. And my website, thattomcat.com.
Yes.
And where can they find you?
The same is true for me, except it's Toni Homeperm, and that's...
Tony with an I.
That's right. Facebook,
Toni with an
YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And my website.
We thank you so much for listening, and you will hear us again in another episode of God Will Get You For That, Walter.
Good night.